This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers, and welcome to a very special spotlight session here on Bad Movies We Love, where we don't just talk about the movies, we talk to the people who make them. I've really enjoyed doing this interview series, and I've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of interesting people. And in this Filmmaker in Focus episode, I was joined by writer and director team Josie and Mitchell Robinson to talk about their beginnings in film, making movies together, and their new movie, their debut feature, Somnia. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Josie and Mitchell, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. I'm sure it's been a very exciting weekend leading into today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy.
Very busy, right? So, I mean, you're fresh off of back-to-back sold-out screenings, right, of your new movie.
Yeah.
That was on Friday the 20th.
Yes.
So how was that experience?
Surreal. It was. I'd seen the movie probably 500 times because I edited it. But watching it with the crowd on the screen, like on the big screen, was like I'd never seen the movie before. It was all just a totally different experience.
People reacting to things that you didn't even think would get a reaction, but they like found some type of joy or humor or tenseness in it. Just like, and also having people, we knew that there would be people there that we knew, but then like the second showing was, we sat in on half of it, and there were people in there I've never seen before in my life. So it means that like strangers came, and like just having people that I've never met before just casually decide to go see a film by people they don't know, that's not in a big theater. Like you said, it's very surreal. Just kind of just still in shock that it happened. So
I guess the news promo that you did for your local news station went well. I know, we had talked, I don't know, maybe January I reached out to you, or maybe end of last year, about sort of like the process and when you wanted to do this. And, we had talked a little bit about the social media promotion maybe not being the thing that is going to drive people into the seats. And I found for myself personally, watching movies that I don't know anything about sometimes are the most rewarding experiences, because I really have no frame of reference
yeah.
for leaning into that experience. So I just want you to tell me a little bit about the process of having the movie finished. Like, when was the movie like done? And then what was the process like of having the finished movie and then getting it into the theater for the premiere?
We wrapped shooting September.
Yeah. First weekend of September.
And then the movie was done, fully edited early January. Maybe early to mid-January. Before it was finished, once we had our first trailer out, I reached out to our local theater. By that time, we'd had a trailer, we'd had an IMDb page, we had a letterbox page, and we had a bunch of stills, and sort of like a pitch. And I sent it to the theater guy, and just on those things alone, he was like, "Yeah, we'll show it."
Awesome.
Yeah, it
That's
was
nice.
crazy. And the theater here, the one that we showed it at, is prize turned into a comedy theater. So they mostly do comedy shows. So the fact that they wanted to show our film, not knowing us or anything about us really, was super cool. And we had a blast working there and being able to show it there. So
Oh, that's amazing. Since you mentioned the IMDb and the letterbox stuff, who's responsible for that? Is that something that you have to do all on your own and fill in the details for all that? Do you submit and then request approval for these details?
Yeah, there are certain things you have to have to qualify for even getting one, like just proof that there is a real movie out there. So you have to send them a trailer, you have to have some sort of external article written about it. You have to have stills and websites and social media pages just to prove that it exists. And then from there, you fill in your own all the details.
I see. It's that's a lot to put
Yeah.
together the
Yeah.
backbone just to prove that your movie exists after doing all the work of making the movie to begin
Yeah,
with.
and it was a pain because it got rejected the first time we tried to submit
What?
it. Yeah. They're like, "This isn't enough. Your movie's not real." I'm like, it is.
I swear it
I made
is.
it."
What if we send you the whole movie? Would that convince you that it's real? So are there different criteria for then submitting to Letterbox, or is it basically the same? And I mean, like in podcast distribution, it's like I give my thing to one distributor, and then
Mhm.
they delineate to all of the other, podcast hosts. So
Letterboxd is a totally different deal, so you kinda have to do the
gotcha.
whole thing over again.
Mm,
It's a little easier to make, though. You don't have to have as many proofs of, you know, that it exists.
okay. Well, now that the technical stuff is out of the way, I want to go back to the very beginning for both of you. And I'm not meaning the beginning of this film, which we will get to, I promise. I
Mm.
want to talk to you about the beginnings of like your personal sort of cinematic journey. So, like, what is your earliest film memory? And how do you feel that that experience informed you as first as a watcher and then later on as a creator?
I feel like yours starts way earlier, so you should.
Um, my grandma, when I was growing up very, very little, she had this huge DVD collection, way bigger than ours. Um, and ours is getting a little bigger. But we would watch movies, and she didn't really care for kids movies, so I would watch mostly like rated R horror movies from a very, very young age.
All right, Grandma.
And I just became like obsessed with movies. But I grew up religious, and I grew up like in church and things. And you know how, if I don't know if you have any experience, um, churches a lot of times will do like plays, like skits, um, especially for the kids, musicals, things like that. But our youth pastor didn't want to do that. He wanted to make movies instead.
Mm.
So we would make these like no budget, really terrible, sorry if he hears this, really, really horrible, like religious movies.
With really stupid names.
Really bad. Yeah, yeah, really. And like I was in them and stuff.
I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there are DVDs floating around there. But but I was probably 10, and it was so much fun, like being on a movie set, even like one like that, with one camera, a boom mic, and kind of nothing else. So I went home and I made my own little movie with my family, that is also floating around on DVD somewhere.
It's great.
That is just like a really terrible 30-minute horror comedy. But ever since then, I've really wanted to make movies. Um, and had it not been for knowing, even in a strange kind of constrictive, conservative sense, knowing people who were making no budget indie movies, I don't think that I ever would have thought it possible. But ever since then, I've had this mindset like, you kind of don't need anything to make a movie. You can kind of just do it if you really want to.
Yeah, a matter of will, and I am familiar. I am familiar with the sort of parochial school and the putting on the shows. Not to toot my own horn, I did play Jesus once in fourth grade,
Yeah.
so I am familiar with the experience. And I would have loved if one of our teachers was making movies instead of that stuff. But Josie, where did you sort of begin your cinematic journey?
I was also young. I grew up homeschooled, and we, for whatever reason, did not have cable TV, so we just had a million VHSs and DVDs, and so we were just watching instead of watching, 100 TV show episodes a day. We were watching, tons of movies as soon as we were done because being homeschooled means being done whenever you want to be done, really, as long as you're and however lenient your parents are. And I also was a missionary kid, so we were on the road a lot.
Mm.
And we had a little portable DVD player, and me and my brothers would very carefully look through and pick which DVDs were going with us. And so from a young age, I was always watching movies. I had already seen a bunch of movies, secretly watching movies I wasn't supposed to, just like watching everything. And I feel like I've always loved film, but then it was in, I want to say 2019,
Yeah.
2019, we were at the theater that we premiered our movie at, the Crescent, and we went to go see Parasite. And it was my first time seeing a foreign film on the big screen ever. And I don't even know what it was. Like, I like Parasite. It's not like it's even a favorite movie of mine, but it just, something in it like reawoken something in me, is not a word, but whatever. Woke something up in me. And from then I just like got even more. I was watching more foreign film, more whatever. When I met Mitchell, he introduced me to low budget horror and low budget indie stuff, things that I wasn't super familiar with. And hearing him, I watched all his home movies and whatnot. And I guess that same thing, just discovering it later in life, that like you really can make a movie doing anything. And I think some of the ones that I saw where I first was like, oh, we could do this, was we were watching, oh, what is that? It's the Greta Gerwig film with her first film.
Nights and Weekends.
Nights and Weekends. It's Greta Gerwig and that man whose name always escapes me. Either way, it's a very low budget mumblecore film, and I was like, and I didn't like it very much. And I was like, well, we could do something like this. It's like an apartment and a camera and whatever. And then that kind of just didn't go anywhere. But then a couple of years ago, we were in a movie theater and we were watching this film called Ghostlight, and it wrecked me, and I just was so moved by it and moved by the story. And Mitchell had just written Somnia for a play competition, and it didn't get through. And he was like, he also, he was like, this movie's incredible. He's like, I want to make a story like this. And I was like, oh, well, you kind of did. And then he's like, I want to make Somnia into a movie. And I was like, well, do it. Let's do it. And yeah, I mean, the rest is kind of history. So it's been a long time coming to here to now, based solely really on just watching a lot of movies. So
Well, bit of like living the dream of like, hey, I see this thing. I think I can do this thing. I want to do this thing. Let's just do it. Right.
mhm.
So timeline wise, when was the sort of initial like, yes, we're going to do this? Because you said the script was written for a play competition. So when did you decide like, hey, whatever, let's turn that into a feature? Was it 23?
Ghostlight came out in 2024. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was after that. I had to rewrite the whole script to turn it into a movie because it being a play, there's only a couple characters
Yeah.
and only a couple locations.
he added a lot.
So I had to rewrite the whole thing. Once it was all together, it was a super quick turnaround to shooting because we were just kind of too excited about it to do anything else. So, both having full-time jobs and everything, we sent out a couple emails. We know some people who were doing like local theater, and those people knew some people who were doing screen acting, and they all got back to us. We were like, "Hey, you want to make a movie?" Kind of thinking they would say no, and then everybody was like, "Yeah, we definitely do." And we were kind of bombarded pretty quickly within 2 weeks, I think, with a bunch of like self tapes
We had to say
audition.
no to people, which is not something we like. We thought we would have maybe a few people, and we'd have to beg family members to do it, or or friends. And we had multiple people audition for the same role. Like, it shocked us. Like, we weren't preparing to say no to people. So yeah, it happened. And once that happened, I think that's when it felt really real. Like, oh, okay, I think we can actually do this. It's happening.
And we had a table read, and we probably started shooting, what, 4 months later? Something like that.
Table read. Yeah, it wasn't too long. It was a few months after.
Yeah.
I was
Because
going
we
to
had
ask
to raise
you.
a little bit of money before we
Okay.
started shooting.
Well, yes, as as we have to do.
As we have to do.
I was going to ask you about the casting stuff later, but since you mentioned it, I'll just bring it up now.
Mhm.
Did you put out like a casting call, or was this sort of like through the grapevine where you knew a person that knew a person? Hey, these people are making a movie. If you're interested, reach out to them. Did you even like
Yeah.
send out scripts or anything to these
So
people?
so we went to college with a girl, and she was this one person really that we knew. She has her own theater company for kids, and she does theater and has directed plays. And so that's all we knew for there. Is like, okay, well, we know there's actors around here. They're theater actors, but it's the best we can do. So we said, hey, we have this movie. This is the script. If you know anyone. All she did was post on a local Facebook page. And within like a week is when we had up to like 10 auditions already in our email. And
Wow.
they if they said that they were interested, he sent them the script, and then the ones that were interested read it and got back to us. And yeah.
Cool. Um, for the key like roles, I mean, you said you wrote this as a play, so it was a much sort of like smaller scope thing. So when you look at the key roles in the film, it's mostly Claire, Paul, Jenny. Carol is the mom who is in there a
Mhm.
couple of times, but I would say probably like those three main roles are the ones that are like most essential to moving the story forward and telling the story. So for getting the right person for those roles, you said Mary was someone that you knew and went to college with. Um, or was that not the one?
She was not. The person that we went to school with is not in the film at all.
Oh,
We only used her as a network.
gotcha. Okay.
She's an actor. She could have auditioned, but she's so busy with everything else.
Yeah, we actually didn't know anybody who was in the
We had
movie.
never met any of those actors before. They met us for the first time at the table read. And
Wow.
Mary, the lead, she's one of like 3 or 4 of the cast that had actual screen experience, and had been to film school. So kind of lucked out with her too.
Oh, that's great. So when communicating like what you wanted the cast to do and like what you felt the script wanted to do, what like, notes and direction are you giving to those sort of like key roles when you're filming?
Um, we had pretty extensive conversations with each of the different cast members about what the movie was to them,
Mm.
from the perspective of their character. So, Defna Ostis, who plays Claire, she was playing I feel like her performance is kind of from a totally different movie than Mary Steinball, who is playing Jenny. Um, almost a different genre from the scenes that Claire's in to the scenes that Jenny's in.
Yeah.
So we we sent Mary, who played Jenny, um, I sent her paragraphs and paragraphs of what the story means to me. She took, I mean, she just bled all over her script, with notes about each line, and we really deliberated. And she knew by the time we were shooting exactly what that movie was about, what her character's motivations were, um, and exactly how how to play the role. That was the good thing about having such a big gap in between the table read and shooting. It was mostly so that we could gather a little bit of money together in locations and things, but it also gave us a lot of time to converse about, kind of the intricacies and nuances of the movie.
Okay. And I mean, just like as an observer, it feels like to me this is this story of like grief and also loneliness and how those things are framed like from our main character's perspective, and
Mhm.
then how the pieces around her sort of function in like the wake of this energy from her. So I mean, maybe that's just like I'm reading too much into it. But like, where did the particular like idea for Somnia come from? I know you mentioned Ghostlight, but this has
Mm.
this like particular sort of like fulcrum point to it with the inability to sleep and all of the mental hazards and physical stress that goes along with that. So
Mm.
was this something that like you've experienced personally? Was it something you just wanted to investigate in the storytelling?
Um, I, in my own personal life, um, have felt so down and so depressed that it felt like it was really having a negative impact on people around me. And you watch movies and sometimes a character will die and it seems like everything just keeps going on. I wanted to make a movie or to write a movie where the grief and the depression for one character is so bad that everyone else keeps going on, but it stops for her. And it stops to the point that everyone else is worried about her. Like, it seems like she is slowing down too much and the grief is too heavy on her. But I feel like that is a much more realistic depiction of it than if she grieved for what would be considered the appropriate amount of time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because there is like a weird social kind of pressure on you. I mean, like from an employment and like labor side of things, that's already bad enough where they're like, oh, someone in your family died. Like, well, you get a government mandated like 5 days if it's someone in the immediate family kind of thing. And then
Mhm.
there is this societal pressure on people to like heal faster. And I
Mhm.
think when people have not experienced that kind of loss, that's just like this gut wrenching pain that like you don't know what to do with, they don't understand that like you're grieving and you're in pain, and like grief is not just like a straight line where it's like, okay, I'm at this stage, I'm at this stage, I'm at this stage. Like it's jagged. Sometimes the path like falls out from under you. Like grief is a very hard thing to navigate, and sort of weighing the expectations of others, like we see here with the husband, and then trying to like weigh the expectations of yourself and wanting to actually like process this in a healthy way it's a complicated journey to navigate. And by framing Paul the way that you do in the film, he is kind of like at a stage where he is ready for his wife to be healed, right? And so when this other character comes into the picture, like they have this conversation later in the film where he expresses like because she was there is the reason. And so like on the one hand, it's like, okay, Paul kind of comes across like a jerk and is unable to be the person that like his wife needs him to be. And then on the other hand, I'm like, that's a very human response in that situation. And at least it's like, it's not great, obviously, but like, at least it's honest. And it's like, it wasn't necessarily convenience, it was comfort for him. And I like the framing of that because he is sort of grieving the loss of his marriage at the same time that his wife is grieving the loss of her mother. And having lost my own mother like 10 years ago almost, it is a complicated place to be, especially from an emotional connectivity place with your partner. And I want to ask you a little bit. I don't want to get like too much into spoiler stuff for people that haven't seen it, but I'm going to do my best to sort of dance around that. Um, there is a moment where Paul and Mary go out to dinner, right? And I feel like this is a really like quiet, sort of like beautifully articulated scene between the two of them. And they take time to dance, and we see that like she has the foot injury still. So it is both sort of sweet and sad and healing. And then from that point, there is still further rupture. So, from a character standpoint, what did you want to communicate most to the audience through this scene at this point in the movie?
I like to think of the first two acts as a sort of uh, Greek tragedy, like an epic tragedy, with Jenny being the tragic protagonist.
Yeah.
And there's always kind of a point at the end of the second act in a Greek tragedy where the hero kind of hits this point of no return. And from there, they've sealed their fate um, in that genre to die. And I wanted this to be the point where they're both trying to make it work, but neither of them can do it. Jenny can't uh, can't move on, can't heal herself, and also can't let herself enjoy the night without getting mad at Paul and without drinking more than anyone wants her to. And Paul can't forget about Claire long enough to have dinner. So it doesn't fit the genre perfectly, but both of them gave it one last ditch effort, because from there it's downhill for both of them, downhill kind of emotionally for Jenny, and then I would say downhill morally for Paul.
Yeah, that's fair because it doesn't communicate necessarily a loss of love, but there
Hmm.
is a loss of synchronicity for the two of them. Like their life journeys are no longer in sync, and that is a troublesome place to navigate for a couple. So Josie, like what was the shoot like for you directing this? Was this a lot of reshoots? Was this, hey, we're gonna sort of like run and gun this and let's see what
Um,
happens? And yeah, tell me about it.
it was one very stressful. I'm gonna be so honest. It was so we started out our very first shoot actually was the first scene in the movie
Mhm.
unintentionally because that's when that place was available. And it was also one of the bigger this it was the second biggest day as far as extras and things and props. And so we literally just dove right in. We were just we jumped right in. And so that it was like I think I felt it first. I was very anxious. I was nervous. Um I don't know. I'd never directed anyone other than because we've done a short film before, and so I'd never directed anyone other than like family. And so I'm gonna be on the first day. I was so nervous, and I was wondering like, was this the right choice? Am I actually like fit like to do this? Um, but I don't know. Like halfway through the day, I like really like found my like footing in the day, and it felt so natural to like tell watching a scene and feeling confident and being like, actually I don't like the way that you did that scene, can we do it this way? Which it's not something I'm always good at being confident and telling people, but I found my confidence in that. And then even though we did it together, Mitchell taking, even though it's his script, him taking a step back and letting me direct those scenes, and letting me tell people like, hey, like I actually do it this way, or let's try it, this way, and letting me shoot the scenes with the camera, and do other stuff. And though it was anxiety inducing, it was fun, and like a confidence boost, and it truly, like, I was like on a high by the end of the day, because I was like, this is something I love to do. This is something I could see myself doing. And then every shoot after that, though I'm not going to say they weren't stressful, it
Mm.
they felt easier. And it was almost fun to give direction, not like in a bossy way, because I realized people weren't interpreting as that. They're like, "Oh no, you're supposed to be telling me these things." And I guess I constantly felt more comfortable giving people direction and whatnot. And so, to the point where when I was watching the final product on the big screen, I saw the fruits of those, of the directing of the thing. And so yeah, it was stressful, but it was fun, and it was eye opening for me personally. So.
And was there like any, since you mentioned it, was there any like big choice where you had filmed it and was like, don't like that, really want to do something different here? Was there one that stood out to you that when you watched it on the big screen were like, yeah, all right, I was right in my decision making?
Yes, the biggest ones were with Paul's character. He's very talented. He's a theater actor. So, like, very, very prolific theater actor here. Has won like local awards and stuff for his acting. And we were working on some scenes, and he would deliver a line almost too angry, which Paul is supposed to be angry definitely as time goes on. But there was this one scene, and I want to say it was they were talking in the bedroom at some point, and he delivered it just really angry, and I listened to it, and that's how we had kind of rehearsed a little bit too. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that that's the approach. I said, can you try to be a little calmer? I don't think you're supposed to be this angry yet. I think you're just kind of annoyed. I said, can we be a little softer? And watching on the bench, I pointed this out as like, I'm so glad that I said something, because it played out so much better. The build up for Paul to the really big scene, the argument, if you will, without saying any spoilers, was such a good payoff. I felt like it flowed better. And so and there was another instance where he was doing it one way. I was like, hey, let's do it this way and wait to do this. And it was mostly just scenes with him talking with Mary's character. And it paid off big time at the end, because I think that it helped Paul's character not be an ass for the whole thing, and build that way where you feel a little sympathetic for him, because I think he's such a mixed bag as a character. And so definitely felt the payoff of that, though, watching it. And actually was one of the first things I mentioned to Mitchell after the movie was done, saying how glad I was that I didn't just stay quiet and let him do it the way he was doing it, and I changed it. So,
Oh, that's
and
great.
Mitchell let me change it. It's his script, but he's like, no, I mean, I see what you mean. So that was nice.
So my natural follow-up question is, was there ever affection between Paul and Mary on the page? Because like when we meet them, they're already at like a very stressful point. We sort of don't even like meet them at the same time as a couple. They're in their own different worlds. And so like there's already a very visible chasm between the two of them. And that first scene in the bedroom when she is sleeping and he's getting dressed, sort of like the way he talks to her is already at a point where it's like you can tell that yes, he is
Hmm.
sort of fed up with what's going
Hmm.
on, and their communication has not been good up until that point. So I'm just curious, like, was there ever a point in the script where you had written it where we started with them closer together?
A purposeful decision we made was the only time you see the two of them happy and smiling is in the two photographs of them
No.
that are in her bedroom, or one's in the bedroom, one's in the living room,
Hmm.
because that is all the past. And any kind of affection you see from Paul is toward Claire, and from Jenny is toward her mom on screen. The rest of it is all implied. which is why we have a couple purposeful close-ups of the picture, because the only time you see the picture is before a scene that really strongly contrasts what's there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's a stretch to kind of expect the audience to understand that at one time they were a happy married couple.
Yeah, I think, I don't think I ever questioned that, because I feel like in the communication between them, like they wouldn't be fighting if they didn't care, sort of situation. Like they have to care about each other enough to like be willing to sort of have an argument about what's happening.
Yep.
But Josie, I want to ask you a little bit too. Since you had mentioned like these particular instances where you wanted to do something differently, a lot of the filmmakers I speak with really enjoy the like collaborative process with the performers. So, like, how was that like for you? Did any of this come out in the table read where you wanted to maybe like mix things around and get some feedback from people?
Um, Not so much the table read, but the just like the first couple of days of shooting, just like watching the way that they approached their characters, you know, giving I'm trying to think of I feel like I talked the most about a character with Roy's character with Paul. Just he had the most like growth, I think, as far as like his character, I mean, growing and changing. So talking to him a lot about his um with it's funny with Mary, we never had to tell her anything. She like came to set and she would isolate herself from everybody to the point where I didn't even feel like I really got to know her until like the fourth shoot day. She would hide in a room and she had a playlist. It was like a Somnia playlist and she would listen to it. And it was like that fourth day she came out and she like revealed this whole new side to her personality. She was like a jokester. And like we were not expecting that because as you can see in the movie, she is just very solemn all the time. And but she was showing me her notes one day and talking to me about her character. And she would ask me, she's like, is there anything, that I could be doing differently? I was like, honestly, I said, I feel like you understand this character more than I do. And I know she talked to Mitchell a little bit about it since he wrote it, but as far as me, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I didn't have to tell them a ton. They they didn't, I had a few moments where I like, said, hey, do it this way, but they each took such care and time. Again, I was so shocked by this because I really was just kind of going into it expecting people to be like, oh, this is just a little film. It's not that big a deal. And they each approached it with so much love and care, and seeing the highlighted scripts, and like to the point where Defna's character, Defna, uh she made up an entire backstory that didn't exist for her character. She said that she knew her four favorite movies, what music she liked, where she lived, where she grew up, like completely, and just like brought it to me. She's like, "This is my character, and this is what she's like." And he's like, "Oh, okay, sure, yeah. I mean, whatever you say." But I feel like I don't know. I feel like they made it really easy on me, because they were just so prepared.
We had some good rehearsals here at the house too.
Yeah, oh yeah, and we did a lot of we had them over in pairs to come sit in the living room, and that's where I feel like we really got to the meat of it and like discussed things. And I don't know, they just constantly blew me away. I feel like they made it really easy, and it was so much fun working with them. That now I'm nervous for the next film because it might be new might be new people, and you know the bar is high for for actors now.
And were they all there at the Q&As for the screening as well? I thought I read that, but maybe I was wrong.
They they all got to attend the premiere except for one, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Defna has moved to LA, so she was not able to um come back. But her family was there. So no, but everybody and most of the extras were at the premiere. Um so yeah, that was really cool. And I
Yeah.
think that they were very nervous, but then at the end they like I could see how excited they were to see, which I can imagine, to see themselves on a big screen. So
I have a two-pronged question here, and it's sort of like half for each of you. So because you had mentioned Defna and sort of her like figuring out her like four favorite movies for like who this character is, right? There's a moment where Mary wakes up and she's talking to her mom and she's like, "Oh, I would be able to answer this question easily if you were like asking me my favorite movie." And her mom is like, "But I'm not asking you about your favorite movie." And I found that to be like such an interesting line in this movie because I mean, Josie, you and I met like through film Twitter basically,
yeah.
right? And so like that is such a big part of like online film discourse. So, Mitchell, when you're writing that into the script, um, I feel like it's sort of grounded in the body or like the mindset of a person who like really wants to have an easy answer that they've thought about versus like having to do the work. So like when you put that in the script, like what were you intending for the audience?
Um, yeah, the line is, um, it's like when somebody asks you your favorite movie and you suddenly forget every single movie you've ever seen.
Thank you.
So and I think that's sort of maybe not with movies particularly, but I think that's sort of a universal shared experience where it feels like something so easy because I've seen so many movies. But if somebody was to ask me what my favorite movie is, I'd have to stop and think. So it's just kind of being put on the spot with something where the stakes are so high. This character is seeing her mom again, and she finally has the one thing she's always wanted, which was to be able to talk to her mom again. And in that moment, she can't think of a single thing to say.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you spend so much time probably replaying a lot of those last
Mhm.
moments in your head. I mean, I know from personal experience, like if I were to see my mom again, what
Mhm.
would I say? I would want to say a lot of things, but I don't know what that first thing that I would want to
And I
say
think that
is, right?
really is important to the character because I don't think she really wanted to say anything. She just
Yeah.
wanted to be there, which is why it's so hard for her to wake up because it's not like she can just say something and like, oh, thank God I said it. Now I can go back and live my life. She doesn't want to tell her anything because if she told her something, she could say goodbye and never see her again. What she wants to do is sort of sit in silence and just be around her mom again, which is why it's so tough to wake up.
Yeah. You had also mentioned that Mary had, I don't know if we call it like method acting or what is, but she had her own playlist and she had like lived in sort of like this character's space. And because
Mm.
you mentioned the playlist, Mitchell, I want to ask you about the music and composing the music and sort of setting the tone for what you wanted to say here with this movie. I think the music comes in um, at some key moments in the film um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of piano in the
Yeah.
film. And I mean, for me, I love the piano. It's a beautiful instrument. I don't play it, but I love the sound of it. And I feel like it's kind of gone away from a lot of scores in the last like 20 years, maybe. So
Mhm.
when deciding to sort of include some of those elements, what were you looking to sort of imbue the film with by choosing piano?
I want it to sound like a lullaby. And obviously there's no one other than I and Josie knows the names of these pieces, but they all do have names because it's not like we have like a released soundtrack album or anything. So no one ever
Not
sees the
yet.
names of the pieces. Yeah, exactly. But the central theme is called Jenny's Lullaby, and it's the music that sort of rocks her to sleep. The score that I was listening to scores that I was listening to a lot were Eternal Sunshine, that's the John Brion soundtrack, and then the score from Pet Cemetery,
Oh,
which is not one that pops into people's heads. But if you watch that movie back, it has a really beautiful piano score. It's almost too beautiful for the movie. um, and that main theme was something that I wrote years ago and I don't usually think in terms like this, but it almost feels like years ago, before I ever had this idea, I wrote that piece for this movie because I never did anything with it. I just wrote it, and that's not like I ever had a reason to play it, or a reason to record it or anything. So I just kind of kept it in my back pocket. And when this came around, I was, sitting over the piano, aggravated, and I started playing that. And from the other room, Josie was like, "Well, that's it." I was like, "Well, that's not why I was playing it. That's just another piece I wrote." But she said, "That's the score for the movie," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that is the score for the movie." So
Funny how that works out,
kind
huh?
of central motif, I based a lot of the rest of the score around that piece.
No, that's a great story. I love that. I want to ask you too a little bit about Patty Jean because there's a couple of songs that you included in the film as well, and I'm not familiar with Patty Jean. So is this someone that you knew that you were able to get music from, or how did you go about not just like securing the music rights, but thinking about when you wanted to inject those into the film?
She's local. We didn't know her per se, but she is sort of a friend of a friend, um, such that I could like follow her on Instagram and shoot her a DM and say,
Mm.
"Hey, I know this person that you know. We're making a movie." We had tried earlier to get some other music, and we just couldn't afford the rights to it. We were able to get in contact with the artist, but we couldn't afford it. So we messaged Patty, and she was like, "Yeah, I love that." Um, and she ended up letting us use the music for free. And there was this "Things Are Different," which is the song that plays in the end credits. I had been obsessed with for weeks before I DM'd her, and I just listened to that over and over again. I was like, "This is a rock song. It doesn't make any sense in the movie, um, but it's just so good. I needed to have it in there." And I just love that song so much. Um, but "Island in the Sea," which is what I would say is the really integral scene, or the really integral score, is that song was unreleased.
Mhm.
It hadn't come out yet. And she said, "Hey, I've got this song. It's a demo right now, but the album's going to come out in weeks." You know, she said, "Let me send it to you and see if you like it." And it was "Island in the Sea." And when I heard that, I was like, "This has got to go in there. This
Mhm.
song is perfect." So I put that demo over the footage we had, the rough footage, and sent it back to her, and she was like, "Yeah, I love this." Um, and then as soon as, just before it came out, when she had like a real good recording, the one that was going on the album, she sent that to us. So that was really cool. And when we were looking for music, we had never, no one had ever heard that song at all.
It's brand new. And
Yeah.
to the point where I cannot imagine the film without it, honestly. Especially Island in the Sea, which is the big piece. Like I as much as I love Mitchell's like original score and stuff, I cannot imagine that song not playing during those really big moments in the movie. And she got to come to the premiere and I told her that I was like, I feel like this movie wouldn't be what it is without your music. And so the fact that she gave it to us for free, um, and has told us like, hey, I would love to work with you guys in the future. I feel like that must be what it's like for like big directors when they form these relationships with composers or cinematographers or whatever, and you find this someone you just really like to collaborate with, and that's how I feel about her. Even though we don't know her very well, I just feel like indebted to her, just really grateful because her music made the movie so much more.
Well, there's still time to get to know her, so that's the
Oh,
plus
definitely,
side.
and we plan to.
Since you mentioned cinematographers, did you end up having a DP on this, or were you the cinematographer for this?
Yeah, we just sort of passed off the camera to each other.
Mm.
Back and forth,
Um,
back and forth.
yeah, we storyboarded it in advance, but then on shoot days, Josie would have an idea. Is like, "Hey," she'd be like, "Give me the camera. I gotta track this shot, or we're gonna try this out." Sometimes she would man the camera, sometimes I would man the camera.
Mhm.
A lot of times, um, we would just sort of have to set the camera on a tripod, click record, and then I'd go hold the boom and she would go hold a light or something like that. Um, so yeah, it was we were all kind of doing what we had to do to get the shot.
Yeah, do what you got to do. On a weird like visual note, I had originally watched this on my TV because I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to, right? Um, However, my TV for some reason was having like a lot of trouble like handling like streaming something on like a YouTube link. And so the color was like way blown out. And I was like, this is such an interesting choice. Like the backlighting it looks like the sun is blue. And then her dress, it looked like Godzilla's atomic breath a lot of the time. And I was like, this is such like a pronounced choice because it looked like it was burning. And I was like, all right, I definitely have to ask about this. And then today I was like, you know what, let me watch it on my computer excuse me, and see if that is still the case. And it wasn't. So now I'm like, that whole line of questioning is out the window. But I don't want to spoil the ending thing, but there is something that happens that sort of like stretches the fabric of our understanding of the film that is established at that point. And was it always the decision to stretch that as far as it went? Like, was that always a key component of what you wanted to do in the storytelling?
I would say that was the initial idea. That was kind of the conceit, the very first thing I thought of. It would be like, what if that was baseline? What if this happened?
Mm.
And from there, I kind of built the story around it.
Yeah, because that was in the play.
Yes, that
Originally.
that was
And
the idea.
He's like, I don't remember him even saying to me, like, I don't want to sacrifice this piece. This is why the movie is what it is, or this is why the story is what it is. We'll add and subtract what we have to. This has to stay. And so, I mean, tons of characters were added.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
have
scenes.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have
I
to
want
make
to say
some casting
Claire was
additions.
added. You said to
Um,
the story.
Yeah, not necessarily for the movie, but that was a tricky thing writing this. It was, how do you tell a story where the main character is asleep a lot of the time? So you have to kind of focus on other characters while she's asleep. So that was sort of where the Paul and Claire storyline came from.
I don't know why I don't see it listed here on the page, but the actress who plays Grace
Mhm.
does a really sort of wonderful job of like communicating quietly these themes that are present earlier in
Sure.
the film. And in then sort of communicating with Mary, who has been our established lead up until that point, was there something like specific that you wanted to have in that character dynamic between the two of them that you like really wanted to make sure that you got on film?
Yeah, sure. Grace, the actress who plays Grace, Noelle P. She sent in an audition that was that big monologue at the end.
Mm.
That was not written as a monologue. That was written as
Oh,
dialogue.
okay.
But she went straight through it as if it was a monologue, and it blew us away. And I said, "Well, damn it, this is a monologue now." So I cut out a lot of Jenny's lines, and just held the camera. We held the camera on Grace the whole time. But what I wanted to do, and I talked to them about this, is I wanted, in a way, for Grace to mimic Jenny's feelings, as if to say that even though Jenny was an unpresent, absent mother, there are still these through lines between the two of them. That when Grace is crying at the end, you can see why Jenny would also be crying. That both of them are kind of starkly and surprisingly similar.
Well, it draws like a really intriguing thematic parallel between the mother daughter relationship that we see first and then this
Mhm.
second one, because there is like this sort of like communication barrier between Mary and her mom, and then we don't have that anymore. And so it's really fascinating to see that we have this character who like wants to have a dialogue with her mom, but like kind of doesn't know how. And then we're left with a character who sort of maybe doesn't really want to have a dialogue with her mom, but needs to and is able to communicate. So just a fascinating like full loop from where we start with that dynamic between the characters to where the movie ends. Well, we're sort of nearing the end of this hour, so I want to just be conscious of your time. I want to ask you both, like, what was it like working with your spouse on this project? Congratulations on the nuptials, by the way.
Thank you.
I've worked with my wife, both professionally and sort of on the side on a short film project, and she always sort of feels like she's not a creative person. And I'm like, you say that, but then every time I need you to like check something, I'm like, hey, does this art look good? Like, tell me which one you like. So I trust her opinion a lot in that way. So I'm just curious for the both of you, like, what was it like working sort of like in a maybe not co-directing, but like a co-creative space?
Well, it's funny you say that because I feel like the less creative person in this
Mhm.
duo. Um, and especially when, he wrote the script, I'm like, oh, well, this is your story. What do I have to add to this? And he um pushed me in ways that I like didn't know that I needed. And so in the similar way to you, telling me like, hey, like, no, you are creative, you do this or you do that, um or um and I guess like seeing myself through his eyes a little bit really helped, I don't know, push me and make me more confident to the point where, um I mean, I can't imagine making anything without him now. And so I I don't know, I feel like I had the time of my life. Like some days were stressful. Obviously, you get on each other's nerves when you're in the same space constantly, and we were doing pulling 10-hour days at some points. And so but like working all day and then coming home with the same person and getting to talk through all the things you did, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So it was it was incredible, honestly. So I feel bad for the people who don't get to work with with their partners, or who have partners who I don't know, who have partners who maybe aren't creative. Like maybe you're, equally yoked in other ways, but I love having a creative partner, and I like being creative together. So I feel very lucky and grateful for that. So
And she really developed a lot of ownership over the movie as we were making it. Um, and we would get into these kind of arguments because we both had different ideas. But I'm really glad that she became so opinionated on all of it. She would have the idea that she kind of insisted we do, and I was like, well, no, I insist we do it this way. But ultimately, um, she was the director, so I had to hand over the reins, and I'm glad I did because the movie that was in my head is very, very different than the movie on screen, and I imagine that's how it is 100% of the time. There's no way to completely replicate an idea in reality like it was in your head. But I'm really happy with the direction she took the movie ultimately.
Well, now that you've gone through the entire experience of the filming of it, the funding of it, the post-production work, the marketing, the screening, the Q&A, like, and you're sort of like in the decompression phase, I would say, Um I know you sort of both just answered this question a little bit, but like what do you want to tell the person sitting next to you about the experience?
what do you
Um, Making movies is all I want to do ever from now on. Uh, as stressful and like painful and draining as it was at times, that is just kind of a lot of what I think about. And there's no force on heaven or earth that could stop me from making another movie. But I would never want to do it by myself. And I would only ever want to write a movie that Josie was directing.
In a similar vein, after the movie was done, I was just feeling very like weighed down by like it was just a lot. It was a lot to do. I work 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it was a lot to do. On top of that, we filmed every single weekend for 2 months, and Mitchell kept talking about making another movie, and I was like, we just finished this one, and he's like that's all I want to do, and I was like, let's like breathe for a second, and he was like, we'll never do it if we don't just do it, and I was a little annoyed at first, but then the more people that have asked to talk about the movie, and the more people that have talked to me about the movie and asked me about it, and the premiere, and just like seeing it up on the big screen, um I I see now where his like passion's coming from, because it was always there. I just like felt like I needed this break, and obviously we are taking a small break, but I seeing it on the big screen really put it all into frame, because I sitting in there seeing it, listening to people laugh at the film and gasp at the film, and a couple of people cried. um I was like, oh, maybe I can make a good movie, because I was also feeling very like, what if people don't like this? People do like this. I can do this. Mitchell was right. This is really fun, which I again knew all along. I had just like let myself forget that. Um, and I was like, I do want to keep doing this, like no matter what. And so I want to say it was a couple of days before the premiere, maybe, I had done an interview with a local newspaper, and it was the only interview that I've done by myself, and I texted him immediately after, and I was like, I want to make the next movie with you, and he knew what I was talking about because he's already got the script, and I was like, I said I want to make this movie with you. I want I say and I want to do it together. I want to direct it. I want you to write it. I said I want to do this again. And he was like, "What changed your mind?" And I was like, "Just talking about the movie, talking about it with people." I guess I saw it through through someone else's eyes, and it took me doing that to really appreciate it. But I cannot wait to make another movie. And I would not do it with anybody else. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So what is next then for Somnia? And then what's next for the both of you? Obviously, the other movie is on the horizon. Would you ever consider switching responsibilities where Josie, you write the movie and Mitchell, you direct it? No?
I'm not a writer.
Okay.
She had a really fun idea for a movie that maybe we'll do eventually. A really, really cool concept. Not something we could do.
Actually inspired by our conversation on the craft.
Whoa.
I know. It was literally stemmed from that.
So I
Awesome.
think she's definitely got she's got a story in her that I think she definitely could tell. She's much better at directing actors than I am.
Gotcha.
Let's see, Somnia. It's entered into several festivals.
Oh, great.
So we can't stream it until we hear back from the festivals. That's those rules. We didn't do any that you couldn't premiere it because we wanted to do that for sure. But we did enter it to some that you're not allowed to have a wide release for. So once we hear back from the festivals, one way or the other, then it'll be up for streaming. Everybody will be able to watch it, which will be nice. And then the very next thing we're doing is a short film with two of the actors from Somnia. It's actually the husband and wife in real life who played the boss and the psychiatrist.
Okay.
They're married in real life, both very good actors.
And they had originally auditioned for the lead roles in Somnia, and we ended up having to go a different direction, but they're just very good actors. And so Mitchell actually we didn't even like talk about that when he just said, "Hey, that short film I was talking about, I want these two to be the leads." And I was like, "Sure, absolutely."
This is the Colliers, Jay and
Yes.
April.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
And then
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
after that, the next insufferable thing we have to do is try to raise money for the next feature.
Mhm. The short film we are doing basically no budget, just to keep creative and stay creative and keep people kind of paying attention to our production studio, Fort Stovall, while we behind the scenes try to raise money and work on the next film, which is a lot bigger than Somnia, all the way around. So we also will be releasing Somnia on physical on DVD. So that's also really exciting. As people who love physical media, we're very excited to put that out there. So
And so what is that like? Do you have to like get through a distributor to produce that, or what do you go like straight to the plant?
Yeah, we're there's a few websites uh you have to convert like the normal MP4 file to an ISO to print it on a Blu-ray. But they print out your cover art and send you the boxes. It's pretty cost effective. We'll just have to ship them ourselves, and you'll be able to buy them from our website
Very
when
cool.
it's
I mean, yeah, there was
up and running.
dudes selling stuff at the gas station where I grew
Oh
up.
yeah, for sure.
Like, oh, check out my album, man. Just sell it out of the trunk of your car. Keep all the profits. So what I was going to ask is if you get into festivals, are you then going to tour with the film to do some of like the festivals locally?
I don't know. Um, Probably not. I think if we did the festivals, we would do it for the networking and the contest aspect of it. Um, Obviously there's the slimmest chance that it could get picked up by somebody for a broader distribution. If we had a really great experience with it, um, it's always possible that we could maybe tour some local theaters, kind of like we did with ours, where we send it straight to the theater and see if they'll put it on for a night. But other than that, I think after festival season, we'll distribute it online through the streaming services. First, like a paid VOD, and then Tubi, Freevee, Fossum, those kind of places.
Cool. So for the people that are listening to this now and want to follow the Somnia journey along, what is the best way for them to do that?
So we are working on a website. We're gonna have it'll be everything that we work under is under Fort Stovall Productions. And we have a Facebook and an Instagram all under that same name. And then I'll also try to I'll try to connect people with the website when it's also up and done. But
Yeah.
for now, we're existing off of those two.
On Instagram, that's Fort Stovall Productions. FORT Stovall is STOWEVILLE Productions.
So yeah.
And we post on there all the time, and we're always directing people toward something to watch.
And our on most of those you can also contact us through I think I have my phone number hooked up to most of them, and then our email, which is the Fort Stovall Productions at Gmail. So
And if there's any multimillionaires who want to produce our next movie, that is Stovall Productions at gmail.com.
Yes.
You can reach us.
Oh, make sure that is in the show notes for the multimillionaires that listen to this show, which there have been a couple of people that I would assume have money based on their careers, but you never know these days. I have no idea.
Yeah. Inbox is always open to millionaires.
Well, Josie and Mitchell, this has been a pleasure. Just want to say congratulations again on getting the film done and screening it. I mean, you ripped the Band-Aid off, and now here you are. You're going to make another one. Look at that. So, worth it.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for joining us for this spotlight session right here on Bad Movies We Love. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to follow the show, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow movie lovers. And once again, my thanks to Josie and Mitchell for coming on the show and for taking the time to share their experience, not just with making the movie, but with getting it into a theater for its premiere, for talking about some of the behind-the-scenes decision-making that goes into it. That's really the kind of stuff that I want to bring to light. You can find Josie and Mitchell on Instagram, and you can find the production studio on YouTube along with the trailer for Somnia. Links for that will be up in the show notes. And while you're there, make sure you check out the rest of the Shiest Podcast Network at shistepodnet.captivate.fm. We've got some news on deck for you in 2026. And until next time, stay curious and take care.